first foldable phone is finally here, and as a huge fan of the Samsung Fold, the Pixel Fold is one of the devices I've been really excited to buy. My name is Pete, and until recently, I have been a lifelong iPhone user. But recently, like many others, I've been getting a bit bored of using the same iPhone, which doesn't really change much each year, and it turns out Android has a whole lot to offer, and the Pixel Fold is a very good first generation device by Google. Now, first up, let's talk about the good stuff, and starting with the front screen. Now, there's always this telltale sign with a foldable phone, which is how far you can get when using the phone before being forced to, unfold the device, because it's just easier to use for, whatever task you're trying to do. I used the Galaxy Fold 4, and the bar between using the device and then needing to unfold it to use it properly was very, very low, mainly because the front screen is a lot thinner, and it's actually quite fiddly at times to type on the screen. Now, the good news here is that with the Pixel Fold, they've actually solved this problem with a much, much wider front screen. And I find myself just needing to open the phone far, far less than I would normally do for just day-to-day tasks. You've also got the fingerprint sensor on the side button, which you can get to quite easily with one hand and still use the rest of your screen without, shifting your grip too much. And the Fold also supports using Face Unlock, although it is not as secure as Face ID. And chances are you're just going to likely get into the habit of unlocking and holding your phone with the fingerprint sensor there anyway. So whilst the front screen is much wider than the Galaxy Fold 4, it is still small enough to use one-handed. You can still reach, all four corners of the phone, even whilst carrying the shopping or, holding your kid's hand or just holding something else with your other hand. But of course, most of us don't buy a foldable device to just use the front screen. So upon opening the device, you're greeted with a couple of home screens here. You've got one on the left and one on the right, and the dock, which is now in the center. And you can swipe up from the bottom in any app to bring back the dock. And then multitasking is a simple case of just dragging an app, even having a workout guide on the right-hand side all at one time. Or if I'm logging into an app or a website and need to copy information from my password manager, I can just have them open side by side. Now, both the inside and the outside screens are also bright enough to see in direct sunlight too, reaching a peak brightness of around 1500 nits. And for the most part, all of this, like the inside screen, the outside screen, the whole phone, works pretty well. But there are two things in particular that I was most looking forward to getting back in my hands. Those are the cameras and the Google Assistants. Because of course, this wouldn't be a Pixel phone without Google's fantastic camera system. And there are a lot of them here. You've got 5 cameras in total, 1 punch hole camera, 1 camera on the bezels on the inside screen, and then 3 on the back where you get a 48 megapixel main camera, a 10 megapixel ultra wide, and a 10 megapixel 5x telephoto. And I know photos are a very subjective thing, each individual will always have their own preferences, but I've always loved the Pixel cameras with anything from their budget A series through to their flagship phones. They always seem to come out on top in blind comparisons. And whilst I would still love to have a Pixel version of the, 10x telephoto that we get on the Samsung S23 Ultra, it is definitely a step up from the, just 3x telephoto lens that we get on the iPhone. Now, in fact, here is a photo I've snapped using the 10x on the S23 Ultra, and here's one snapped using the 5x lens on the Pixel, and then zoomed into 10x using their Pixel's Super Res Zoom. Now, this isn't mentioned on the page for the Pixel Fold, but on the Pixel 7 Pro's page, it says it's similar to a dedicated 10x lens on leading smartphone cameras. So what do you think? Now, at least with the 5x lens and up to 20x Super Res Zoom, it's great, particularly if you have kids, being able to zoom in that bit further. It just really helps, when they're running around or they're a distance away from you. And also the fact it's foldable means that you can even use the rear-facing cameras and preview the image on the front-facing screen at the same time, which can make a huge difference to image quality. So you aren't actually using that front-facing camera much at all.